At the beginning of every season, we would sit around a big table and everybody would kind of write their top 10, selections for that season and say, this is where we want to go. And there were some that were always at the top. We're like, oh, Antarctica, North Korea would be great. We'll never get there. But essentially from that, we would start to whittle it down based on, okay, does anybody have any contacts in that country? Do we know anyone? Do we know people who have shot there? What do you know about the country? What's the political situation? You go on the government websites and check Canadians, travel status in Kenya or whatever, and you find out, first of all, is it a place, can you go there? What's the challenges? I think the next set of challenges there would be, do you need permits? Is it a place that you can just fly to, like Thailand, and just film anything and go around and have a wicked adventure? Or is it a place like North Korea where you really need to get your shit in order, right? So, I don't know, I guess the next step would be contacting the boards, the tourism boards, trying to get the flights calm, trying to get this and that. Trying to find people in the country is key, because, and the more real they are, and the more like local they are, the better, because those people would always bring out the best in their country, and they're not the tourist people. So I would say from that initial meeting to like actually getting our episodes lined up, I mean, some of them would take a week, some of them would take like a couple of years, such as the case of North Korea. It depends on that level. But I guess the actual shooting would take, it's hard to say, 2 to 3 weeks an episode kind of thing. And once that footage made its way home, the edit would be anywhere from about 7 to 12 weeks. Probably about 7, maybe 8 on average, but some of them would take, some would be 6, some would just fall together really quick, some would have to go through a big grueling process. Depends on what happened in the episode. You can plan these things as much as you want, but sometimes they completely fall apart. Massive amount of footage, like literally the editors need to sift through 30, 40 hours of footage every episode, right? So that takes, it takes them over 2 weeks just to sift through before they can start assembling. So yeah, I would say about 8 weeks would be an average for an episode. And then after that, we do all of the post. The only post we did all of the video posts internally. The only thing we did was Sound Dogs. Steve Barton did all of our sound. So we would, once we locked the episode, send that out to him. And our closed captioning and dubs we've done elsewhere as well. But I'd say maybe a week or 2 weeks to post after it was locked as well. So 10 weeks, about 10 weeks for post, maybe 13 weeks. But it's hard to say because we were never specifically, okay, this week we're just going to work on this episode, this week is just that. It was like, the hardest thing is when you're shooting your 7th episode and all of a sudden you have like 6 episodes going through the post thing, and you know that until you lock your 9th episode that you're going to have like this massive amount of work to do. And it's really about scheduling it properly and making sure that
the last 6.
Yeah, exactly, because you're still in production while you're in post, so you're watching edit in the morning and like work with the editor, and then you've been working on, okay, I gotta call Zimbabwe tonight or something, or I gotta make calls to Chile, wherever, or I gotta stay at the office till 1 a.m. and call Indonesia because it's the only time you can get through to someone. So
the other thing too that is scheduling. So it's one thing to pick a location and say, okay, well, we want to go to Australia this year, and you pick the best time and you go there and you get it done. When you've got 13 episodes to do, potentially 13 or more different countries to get slotted in within a year, and make sure that you've got enough time allotted, but also to be there at the best time for that country as well, that you're not going to be rained out the entire time. The scheduling conflicts play a huge role in that. And then if you're working with a tourism board or something, and you're trying to, or there's political strife and you need to cancel something, and then within a week call up a country and be like, we need permits and we need to get in, and they're like, okay, when do you want to come? We're like, next week. And you're like, we're thinking like next year, but okay, and try to make it work. So there's a huge amount of scheduling, and that scheduling conflict goes all the way through the process as well, trying to figure out how to manage and juggle 13 shows as they come through the system, basically. So.
It can definitely be tricky in terms of that, figuring out time of year and slotting things in for sure.
How long do you usually spend in each country?
How long in each country?
Yeah.
guess it depends. There's a lot of times where there were double episodes, and it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks in each country. So,
Question for both of you. What's the most?
although the shortest was 6 days in North Korea. That was 2 episodes. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. What's the most valuable asset you bring to the team?
Well, most valuable asset. Why don't we talk about each other? Let's yeah, exactly. What are your weaknesses? I think for me, because I think for me, like I've really kind of learned a lot of the ins and outs of producing from doing it, from trial and error. So I've learned how to do, and from having super low budgets and not wanting to take money off screen to hire like 1 million people, just wanting to put it all into the quality of the show or the film and whatnot. So for me, I personally, I guess I've just learned how to like I know a lot about posts, I know a lot about budgets, I know a lot about financing and tax credits and accounting, and I can kind of do all that. So, and again, when we sat down and I was just coming on board the show, I'm like, look, I can do all this shit, I'll do it all, I don't care. I just want to work on a travel show. And then like 1.5 years later, I'm just like, why did I choose this? Yeah, why did I do this? This sucks. No, but I guess for me it's just that, and I kind of get obsessed with things, so I'll just keep working until they're done. So.
I think that overall, everybody on the team, the best asset is passion, because if they don't truly believe in it, like I was saying before, it'll falter, and it becomes evident really quickly, because shit hits the fan so quickly when you're on the road and even when you're in the office, that if you don't believe in this thing 110%, there's no reason to get into it. There's far too little money to not be super passionate about it, because it's only going to be the passion that gets you through every single time shit hits the fan, and to pull the late nights and everything else, and that's become more and more evident now that Steve's no longer with us. I realize how much actually has to be done, but there's absolutely no substitute for that passion and heart to be able to get you through to kind of the finish line, you know. So there's a lot of dark days in between. Yes.
Have you hired media arts grads at all in your, ones that, came not necessarily just that you knew, but that are graduating, like younger people and stuff?
Right. So far, we've been able to keep most of our team on board going forward for our new project. We have had three or four, like several different students in film between Sheridan and Mohawk that were coming in and kind of interning, so to speak. We haven't gotten to a point yet where we've actually hired someone on full-time, but as projects continue to go forward, and now I think the next logical step for us is to try to get more than one of these things going at once, to try to have several programs going on at the same time. And at that point, we'll basically need to either split the team or continue the team going with one side and fulfill all the roles for a brand new team. And at that point, it'll be those people who worked under our wing or alongside us that are going to be the obvious people to kind of take that place, I think, because they get to know you, you get to know them, and that's as I say, that's far more important. It's you start to see who's really passionate about what they're doing, and instead of just they don't agree with the way you do things, or they don't share the same vision. That's usually can sniff that out pretty quickly, and so we just continue to surround ourselves with the people that we really get on with and that really believe in things. So there's no doubt in my mind that some of the students who we've had in our office are eventually going to be working, if they choose to, are going to be working along with us.
Or greenlighting your next production.
Yeah, that's it, or greenlight. Yeah, that's an important note, actually. I remember when I was in, I think, my second year, and I remember Steve Barton saying, I've got to change the way I do business now, because pretty soon it's going to be you guys who are my clients, and he was telling us then, I've got to diversify, I've got to start looking not just for the Hollywood films to do post-audio for, but to to run the gamut and diversify in order to be successful and kind of weather the storm for the long run. And here we are now working together. So I think that was an important note, that you never know where you're going to be and who's going to be in what role. And it's more important to just foster good relationships and keep them going. And again, know the people you can work with and work with those people, because you'll do the best work with those people. Anyone else? Do you have anything else to say, Steve? Any other important notes? Sorry.
I was just going to ask, because you're always really interested in operating with is there like ever a point where you guys have taken it along at all?
Yeah, all the time. When you're living in close quarters like that all the time, it's like a sibling kind of thing. I think at a certain point you're living in such close proximity. You learn so much about those people. You know how to get on their nerves, and sometimes you do it intentionally, kind of like a bad relationship sometimes maybe. And so, but you also knew enough about the people of how to see warning signs and give them space when they needed to. It's a very different thing when you can't just go home at night and be in your own house or your own space, and they go home to their place. And you recharge and you meet at the office the next day. It's a completely different beast. And so there's bound to be ups and downs, and there were ups and downs. But they never really lasted too long. And again, with everyone being friends on the team, if you weren't seeing eye to eye with one person, you kind of lean on somebody else until everyone else kind of came around. And so that was another crucial element, I think, to having the crew also be good friends at the same time, instead of just pulling a stranger on and then he or she feeling out of place or whatever the case may be. But yeah, there were definitely tensions at times. Yeah.
Was there ever a place that you didn't want to go any countries, but just not want to go?
Yeah, quite a number of them. Everywhere we didn't see in the world, every other country we didn't see, we wanted to go to. Like Stephen mentioned earlier, I remember Iran. I still very much want to get to Iran. Being able to see a lot of these countries before major reform happens, I think is a really interesting snapshot of these countries. So being able to see Libya before its recent revolution, being able to see North Korea before what's probably inevitably going to be major change in the future, was really important. So it was countries like that, Yemen, Iran, those were two that I really wanted to see and we never did. But there's ton. I don't know, how about you, the ones that you still want to see?
I was only with him for like maybe a third of the episode, so I've never been to Africa still. Like I've been all over Asia, pretty much every country in Asia, but never seen Africa. So there's still places I want to go personally and just see and check out. Yeah, I mean, we never thought we'd get to Antarctica, and then all of a sudden we literally by chance, being in the south of Chile, bumped into a few people that all ran this Antarctic cruise company that flies you in, takes you on a cruise up the Diamond Peninsula to the continent and back, and flies you back to the south of Chile. And within like 5 days, it went from being a dream to a reality. And we're sitting on this Hercules C-130. We're sitting on the C-130 with like the Ugandan military flying us to Antarctica. We're like, this is fantastic. So. We never shot in the U.S. That's one place, that country. It would have been nice to shoot a lot more in Europe as well, like Eastern Europe and maybe like the Scandinavian countries as well. So sort of miss that sometimes.
We kind of steered clear a little bit for Europe. We kind of intentionally steered clear of a lot of Europe just because we felt like the justice had already been done to those countries. Everyone knew about them. They were well traveled. And when we did start to land in Europe, it was Ukraine and Russia and Iceland. I guess were the only European countries we did, thinking that they needed to be shown in a light, or a new light. Because France and Germany and London, England, and all those sort of places, I love them. Every time I've been, they're great places, but I don't think they really need the attention anymore. Everyone's quite comfortable and has a pretty good understanding of what to expect if they're to go there based on what's already out there. Anyone else? Yeah.